Hello, we're back again. How are you going, Michael?
Wonderful, thank you, Tash. In the middle of Australia.
I was just about to ask, where are you now?
Alice Springs right now, and believe it or not, after going through the last few days where the temperature was 37, 38 degrees Celsius, which is a little warm, it's 105 or something like that in US speak, we're in the middle of a little bit of wet and cool, and it's about 14 degrees here today. So big change, and the people in this part of the world are really enjoying, I think, having waterfall from the sky, because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I was just thinking, as you're speaking, what an amazing privilege really to be in the center of Australia, which is largely desert, and to witness rain. That's amazing. And
yeah, exactly. And look, there's flood warnings and stuff like that out for the McDonald Ranges, which go a couple hundred kilometres to the east and a couple of hundred kilometres to the west of Alice Springs. And maybe tomorrow we might go for a drive and see some water flowing in rivers and creeks, which doesn't happen very often here. So that could be something exciting to do tomorrow.
I'm so fortunate to have just returned from North Queensland, and we had amazing weather, warm but not too hot, and all the locals who have perhaps lifelong understanding of weather patterns are predicting a wild, crazy, wet summer, big storms, many cyclones. And so I wonder if there's any significance with a rain event in Central Australia in the middle of spring.
Oh, well, I think it's probably all part of a larger pattern that we probably don't understand. I think there's probably people who are more attuned with the land that probably do understand it a bit better than us. Sure, the Indigenous people around here would be looking and saying it's going to be a wet one, but we'll see and flow with it.
We'll flow with it. So the last session we looked at flowing through the senses. And it's such a big topic. We've already had 2 episodes covering the senses. And we thought that, perhaps we would continue that today, because really it is something that including the senses in your meditation. I just dropped off for a moment. Can really enrich your experience of meditation, but it's so huge. We thought, okay, we're at least running a 3rd episode. So perhaps we should begin by reviewing what we've already covered in the senses.
Yeah. So I suppose we use that bhavana meditation as a way into exploring the senses. Where you went for your walk through the bush towards the beach, and the first thing that came up was hearing. We spoke about the miracle of hearing and how the world does it, how our body does it, how our brain makes sense of things. We talked about sight, how similarly sight is again a miracle of light touching our eyes and coming in and us seeing a tree, or with more awareness, seeing leaves and branches and shapes and colors and stuff like that. So attuning to the richness of what these senses can provide. And there was also the internal senses of knowing where our body is in space, the vestibular sense of knowing where we are in relation to the center of the earth, and being able to walk and dance and run and things like that. So without those senses that we just couldn't do.
Yeah, so that kinesthetic sense of motion and movement and orienting to gravity, which is very much connected to proprioception. So again, sort of joints moving and joints communicating with each other, and so that we have this skill to be able to navigate through the world with.
That's right, and we spoke about the fact that in school we're taught those 5 basic senses, but I think you said, you know, the anatomists and physiologists have picked up 25 or so different ways of that our bodies sense the internal and external environment.
I think the modern physiologists, they agree that there's 25. Some dispute that there's many more. So we'll take 25.
And so there could be years worth of diving into the senses and how we relate to ourselves internally and to the world externally. Yeah.
We did also cover hearing a little bit as well, and you talked about, you know, these ears, these things like little antennae that will take in information in the form of, you know, little packets of data that we perceive as sound and tone and pitch and volume, and that is you know, another skill of the senses that we can begin to weave and incorporate into our meditation to make it more rich and profound. So extending on, we haven't really as yet covered the breath, and there are certainly you know, there's a myriad of different sensual aspects of the breath. Do you want to talk about
absolutely. I suppose when you think about breathing, how do we know we're alive, right? How do we actually know we're alive? When someone says, how are you going? You go, oh, pretty good. Taking a good breath, you know? What is it that tells us we're alive? I think it's our first breath as we come into the world is yep, that baby's alive. And when you see someone pass away, which you know, I have with my mum recently, it's watching the body continue to try to breathe until it can no longer breathe anymore. Until it's there is a last breath. In between that first and last breath, there might be 22,000 of them a day, you know, breath in, breath out on a 2 to 3 second cycle that most of the time we're not aware of. Yeah. So when we're talking about breath, it's there with us all the time. It's probably the most intimate thing that exists. We're sharing, bringing the ocean of air in, giving it back out to the world. We're breathing what's come out of all the plants and plankton forever. Our oxygen's coming in. We're breathing out carbon dioxide and we're giving it back to them as their food. You know? So that receiving and giving of breath, when there's an awareness to it, there's something special in it. And that's why I think we find in the first 4 sutras of the Radiance Sutras that they're about breath, and many meditation practices are about being with, in some way, to being with breath. Now, some of them are like, well, count your breath, count in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Bring
and methodical.
It's mechanical, and those particular practices are about trying to focus on something to squish out all of the rest. There's nothing loving about counting in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. But the way that we're taught through Lorin's transliteration of the Radiance Sutras is to find what it is that you find interesting in breathing, or loving in breath, or realizing that this is that there's something intimate, and you're actually drawing the universe in and giving back out with just a simple breath.
And I think, to be fair, of those very structured and mechanical, as you say, breathing techniques that are prescribed sometimes, they may serve a purpose for certain people at a certain point in their life, or they might be looking for a certain outcome.
Yep.
But it's true, as you say, that, you know, we breathe in and we breathe out something like 20,000, 22,000 times a day, and mostly without our conscious awareness. And we don't have to, you know, mentally instruct, okay, ribs, I want you to move in and out. It's done automatically and without our conscious awareness a lot of the time. And so, as you say, in this style of meditation, we're encouraged to simply appreciate that flow, to spend some time appreciating, delighting in, cherishing all the sensual qualities of the breath, to perhaps allow yourself to be just struck or lost in awe and wonder that, you know, there's light from a sun that has traveled for lifetimes to reach our planet, and that sunlight hits the green leafy leaves of the plants on the land and in the ocean. They take that sunlight as food. It combines with carbon dioxide that we breathe out. They take it in as sustenance. And then through this really incredible process that we learned about in like grade 8 biology called photosynthesis, there's these green pigments, these teeny little molecules of chlorophyll in the plant create oxygen for us to breathe in. And just by breathing in and breathing out and breathing in, we are enacting our complete and total interdependence with nature. Without sunlight, we can't breathe. Without chlorophyll and green pigments and leaves, we don't exist. And in turn, we are giving substance, you know, molecular, you know, it has weight, it has shape, it has form. We're giving out substance that is used and consumed as food, as a source of nourishment for those plants. It's mind-blowing. And then together with just that scientific reality, that fact of life, there's all these sensual qualities that come with breath. There's just an infinite scope for content, if you like, to meditate on when we come to breath. And it is used in so many you know, spiritual context, meditation teachings, and now, you know, stepping into even medical intervention to help with anxiety or focus or whatever it is, including a little shift in our attitude of, rather than focusing and concentrating and counting, which again, I don't want to negate its value. It could be really supportive for certain people at certain times, but we encourage you to take more of a relaxed, effortless, delighting attitude and a sense of appreciation and love and awe and wonder with the breath.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's so many different aspects that you could fall into. Like, you could fall into what is the actual flow of breath? There's an exhalation that finishes with a pause. There's an inhalation which finishes with you feeling full and nourished. You know, there's the feelings in your body as that happens, whether it's the movement of the air through your nostrils or through your throat, whether it's the drawing down and the opening of your belly or the expansion of your ribs, depending upon how big a breath you take. Having a curiosity about it is one thing. Just to feel into what's going on when I'm breathing. What's going on when I'm breathing? What am I feeling when I'm breathing? And that can take a good breath. Meditation can take one breath. It could be, I'm just about to open the door to go into a meeting. And you could say, I'm just going to stand here and fall in love with life before I step through that door by taking a breath. If you've practiced that, you know, how can I become centered in myself again, just to be ready to go into that meeting. As simple as that. So we can use it for a second, or we could be with our breath for 5 breaths, and experience a whole different range of sensations. Or we could use it as a doorway and a gateway in, to say, I'm going to be with my breath, and then let my experience travel wherever it is.
Yeah, so use it as a doorway to just dive in and flow through that inner adventure, you know, and that inner journey without an objective outcome in mind, just to just be holding that attitude. I think you used the word of curiosity, and within the journey. And you know, you can choose the attitude, you can choose the quality that you want. And it might be that you are about to step into the meeting, as you gave an example, and you take a moment before stepping in to breathe, to tune in to the sensuous world within, with a desire to tune in and be present with your body. Or it might serve you to adopt an attitude that is cold and clinical. It actually might be necessary sometimes. I'm going to be like curious, but not like a happy, playful child. I'm going to be inquisitive like a scientist. I need that quality of attention before I step into this meeting. And here's the thing, you have freedom to choose what type of attention, what quality of awareness you want to evoke. And you can choose also the gateway that serves you. But the whole time maintaining this sense of openness and a sense of wide open embrace, of welcoming all aspects of the inner journey as you move through that doorway into the inner adventure. But breath, really, you could spend a lifetime meditating on breath. You know,
I'm sure there are people who do.
Yeah.
You know, who have.
It's so tangible and accessible. We have, you know, access to it at any time, as long as we are living and breathing. And it is rich with sensual qualities. Maybe we could go through a few of the kind of senses of breathing, welcoming a breath. So of course there's motion, you know, there's motion of breathing. You can feel movement, that sense of, that feeling of expansion and contraction, of an outward and inward movement, and upward and downward movement, to really simplistic.
And there's a rhythmic flow.
There's a rhythm for sure. And sometimes the rhythm is, you know, like ocean waves. It can be like soothing, calming, or sometimes maybe the rhythm is quite staccato, quite bumpy, and and maybe a little longer on the inhale or longer on the exhale. There's different, the rhythm can change, but there's rhythm and flow and change.
Yeah, yeah. And we've even got the opportunity to say, okay, well, if I need to, if I have a certain mindset at the moment and I want to shift it a little bit, then through my breath, through making a conscious decision about my breath, I can actually change that. So say, for example,
Yeah.
that I'm feeling a little anxious and I want to be settled.
Yeah.
If I say, okay, well, let's just have a long exhalation. Just allowing the exhalation to be longer and let your inhalation rise up from that without being forced. And then let your next exhalation be just a little bit longer. Physiologically, there is a calming down in the chemistry of your body with that. So you can choose a technique that can have a shift. Say I'm just getting ready to go into that meeting or whatever, or I'm just about to perform some sporting activity or something. I might want to get myself ready. So we can choose this connection between breath and physiology.
Yeah. Yeah.
To do things for us, as well as just experience what happens naturally as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And it comes back to almost that bhavana, like what type of mood, what do you want to evoke? What quality would you like to be bathed with? And it might be, I need to be pumped and charged and energized for this meeting. And so what tool, what breathing technique, what mantra would I use to move myself towards that state, that quality before I, go to work?
Yeah.
So, there might not be a particular end goal. We can draw upon and connect to what it is that would serve us and would help us to be better at life,
Right now.
right in this moment.
What do I need now?
And how am I better at loving or leading life or being in relationship with my family or my colleagues or my dog or whatever it is. Is this tool and technique serving the way that I flow and move through life, so that not so that I can move through with ease, but so that I can navigate the flow and the changes and the sometimes bumpiness of the journey with
Gracefully.
Yeah, and with that connection to who I really am.
Yeah. I think one of the techniques that Lorin and Camille work with a lot is breathing in love. It's a love of life, a love from the universe around us. Like we said, the plants are giving out to us. They're loving us. We're loving them. That's giving and receiving of love. Just breathing in life, breathing out life, breathing in love, breathing out love. And with that attitude, there's something different about the smell of the air that comes in.
Yeah.
And the exhalation is we sigh out to the world that our love. How does that feel in our body? No, I start to feel a tingle
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of sets off this cascade of other sensory experiences. You might start with choosing one of your preferred or favorite smells, whether it be an essential oil or the smell of coffee, or
Mm-hmm.
the smell of, burying your nose in your partner's jumper or hair. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or the smell, that beautiful smell. And I've forgotten there is a term for it, when rain first falls, when it just hits the ground, or just
Mm-hmm.
there's a smell.
Mm-hmm.
So we can, breath of course is intricately connected to smell. And then, as you said, you can smell, you can delight in that sensory experience of inhaling a beautiful or a homely scent. And it sets off all these other maybe sensory experiences of tingling, of warmth, of maybe motion, and then perhaps triggers sense memories of, oh, I remember that time when I was on the mountain, and and this is all part of the journey. We haven't failed in meditation if your mind starts to wander. Yeah, so we use a doorway, we use a gateway, and then we welcome all that follows.
Yeah, yeah. And smell is one of those triggers for memory that is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a particular smell that will take you back to grandma's place. Or
Yeah.
there's a particular smell that will take you back to a moment in time. It's like sound, like sound, hearing a certain song come on the radio, you know where that song was important somewhere in your past, and it just takes you straight there. This thing in here, you cannot turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't turn it off. And when taking a big breath and the smell comes in of jasmine, it reminds you of your grandma's place when you were making scones, and that journey.
Yeah.
That journey is to be cherished, right? Because it's love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a reminder of love and beauty.
It's so true. I know there's a vast body of research that's looking at memory. And because when we lose our memory through perhaps cognitive decline and conditions like Alzheimer's and etc., we really lose who we are. And so things exactly as you say, like smell, and a piece of music can instantly transport me back to my 14-year-old self. And I am that person, and I remember the mood or the people I was associating with, and so often, and as you say, that memory, that sense memory, deserves your attention, your loving attention, because it teaches you something about you. It's a part of you, and there is so much languaging in many meditation techniques that suggest that if your mind wanders into the past, bring it back to now. Pull it back. And there's a sort of subtle suggestion that if you start thinking about when you were a 14-year-old girl, which I was one, I relate to being a girl, then you failed. You need to bring it back to this moment, to the present. And I think we really need to stop that bullshit. We are these sort of multi-dimensional beings, in the sense we do exist in part in the past, and we are always moving and thinking about and planning for the future, and this is part of being human, and it all deserves our loving attention in meditation.
That's right. And look, we have a template, I suppose, of natural parts of a cycle of meditation that we know of, and has been described to us as the 8 R's, and which we won't go through right now. But we go through remembering is one of those. Remembering from our doorway, we remember stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. and we react to that within our meditation. That's not one of the 8 R's, but we do react to that within the meditation. But there's the healing response within that,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And we can also go through and rehearse the future in our meditation practice. That's one of the R's. But then we can also, once we've gone through this remembering and rehearsing and the other little R's in amongst it, then we think, oh, what was I doing? That's right. I remember I was meditating. That's right. We don't force ourselves back, but we remember that we're meditating. We can say, what was I meditating on again?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It was a breath. So then you might remember your breath again.
Yes.
And then go through the cycle again. So it's really important not to force and chop into that cycle.
Yes.
But to recognize it as natural, and to flow with whatever happens. And then when you come to the point where your mind says, what was I doing? Oh, that's right. I was meditating.
Yeah.
And in this example, it's on the breath. Oh, what did that breath feel like? Take another breath, and then allow the cycle to continue again and start again and run through again.
Yeah, and so the 8 R's is a model that Dr. Lorin Roche has coined the term, and for sure we will talk about that in future episodes in more depth. But I think here, just coming back to the senses, that we might have a meditation where we choose a smell or a piece of music as a doorway. It triggers memories, perhaps maybe past hurts or sadness or grievances or trauma that have not yet been fully healed. So they can come up to the surface. And typically through the healing response, the body has this incredible inbuilt healing capacity for self-renewal, and the body always wants for us to thrive. So there is a process, as you say, of remembering and reviewing and kind of tending to the past memories. They might not all be, you know, traumatic and emotional in a sort of,
but there can be an
way.
ouch, right? There can be an ouch. It can be in here, or it could be in the body, and by being with it tenderly.
Yeah. And so the process of healing is natural. It's innately inbuilt into us, and we can really witness that and experience that during a meditation. So what's really important is that the actual experience of meditation might seem really busy, or might seem really quite noisy, perhaps turbulent, perhaps uncomfortable. It may not. It might even just be fleeting moments of that kind of discomfort, that ouch. But I think what's important to point out here is that a measure of the quality of your meditation might not be the actual meditation at the time. It would be how you feel afterwards, or how you engage in life afterwards, and how you are able to be more loving in life, in real life. So there are so many skills, and I know we're going to sort of dig deeper into them, but even within the 8R model of meditation, there's so many intricate and really delicate skills that we sort of fine tune along the way, and not in any kind of hierarchical order.
No.
And it's not necessarily linear, that, you know, this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens. They can happen in all, you know, in a unpredictable sequence. But it's really important that we understand the skill, coming back to our rules, of holding yourself gently in the process, being kind and welcoming towards yourself and who you are.
For sure. Breath. And that's, can come out of one breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we discussed that in this episode. We wanted to touch on the Sanskrit words that Patanjali introduces in the Yoga Sutras, and because really we're teaching a kind of yoga meditation, like the internal yoga. So the word Pratyahara. Maybe you could introduce the word and explain how it's been taught traditionally in like a yoga teacher training, and then how we might be invited to perceive the word, the meaning of the word, and the application of the word differently. Pratyahara.
Let's have a look at where Pratyahara sits within the Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, I suppose. And look, it's a beautiful description of 8 different, I suppose, phases, but they don't have to be linear. Again, like the yamas and niyamas are like the 10 commandments, right?
Yeah.
Do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to be a good person.
Ethics,
do this.
Morals.
Don't do that. Don't steal shit. You know, don't be greedy. Give yourself up to something that maybe is greater than yourself. You know, that you're not the center of the universe. That there is something greater. You know, and the other 6 or 7. And it's yamas and niyamas. If you're not living by some sort of ethical framework in any religion, then and if we look at yoga, as you could call it, as the science, religion science, if you're not living by some sort of ethical framework, then, you know, what's the point? Then there's asana. Now, as we see asana in the West, it's all these poses and stuff that people do to get them ready to sit in meditation. But asana means steady and easeful pose, right? Then there's pranayama. Pranayama is this breath and energy creation. Let's get ourselves ready, I suppose, with our breathing. And then there's pratyahara, which is, my recollection is like a closing off of the senses. So that it's a closing off of the senses so that I can be internal, I can forget about the world now and come into my inner experience.
Block it out.
Block it out. And there are even practices where we'll close off the gateways, the doorways to perception, right? Close off the mouth so we're not tasting, we're not smelling, we're not seeing, and we're not hearing.
It's a practice of detachment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But that isn't necessarily what the word pratyahara means. If we look at it differently, it's an internalization of the senses. Now, we've talked about the fact that sound waves come to the ear. They vibrate the ear, they create an response on the eardrum, which moves bones, which moves nerves, it moves cilia, which creates in our ear, which create electrical impulses which go to the brain. And in the brain there, then stuff happens that gives meaning to sound. But I, at any time, can replay Hey Jude by the Beatles in my head and hear them singing it with their voices.
Yeah.
I can hear it in my own voice as well, which is nowhere near as good. But I can internalize my senses. I can hear Hey Jude playing. I can close my eyes and I can see the sunset or the sunrise at Uluru, which I saw last week.
Mm.
I can see the colors. I can see the shape again. So this internalization of the senses, it's still there and really rich, and we cannot turn our brain off.
No. Why would you
any,
want?
any doorway, any gateway that we take into meditation is closing the external senses to the world, perhaps, but it is able to enliven the internal ones so that we can practice making it rich, so that when we come out to the world, we can actually see the beauty in the world. We can taste it. We can smell it. This is what I think Pratyahara is. I don't think it's shutting everything off. I think it's internalizing and making and about making it rich.
And sort of following and tracking the trail of the senses from the outer world to the inner world, and the inner world and the outer world. So it's a different sense of engaging with the senses of inner
Exactly.
and outer, and loving it all, you know.
And loving it all. And look, if we look at one of the sutras, it's Sutra 49.
Yeah.
It's about our ability and the universe's ability in creating everything around us to come to a loving relationship. That everything has been created for us to experience and to love that experience, you know.
Light in, yeah.
Should I read it? Maybe we can read this as a close for today.
Absolutely, seems appropriate. Sutra 49.
Yeah. Jagdipana Kritalasa Rasa Ananda Vidrimbanat Bhavayet Bharita Vastam Mahananda Tata Bhavet. The word Ananda is joy, bliss, delight, and it's there twice in this sutra.
Ananda, yeah, bliss.
Tasting dark chocolate, a ripe apricot, a luscious elixir. Savor the expanding joy in your body. Nature is offering herself to you. How astonishing to realize that the world can taste so good. When sipping some ambrosia, raise your glass, close your eyes, toast the universe, the sun and moon and earth. Dance together to bring you this delight. Receive the nectar on your tongue as a kiss of the divine. Rasa Ananda, it's a juicy joy. Maha Ananda is the great joy.
Yeah. Tasting a luscious elixir. Savor the expanding joy in your body. Just that line. What an invitation. Savor the expanding joy in your body. Yeah. Nature is offering herself to you. How astonishing to realize this world can taste so good. That's beautiful and such a great way to close. So Sutra 49 from the
Yes,
Radiance Sutras.
it's good.
Yeah, a great mantra, a great gateway to meditate on the senses. This has been great. I'll see you next time, Michael.
Look forward to it, Tash.
Yeah.